Hi, welcome to Concept V Performance. Today we're going to be overhauling the front suspension on the S15. I want to give a big shout out and a thank you to HKS who hooked us up with some NOB Spec Hypermax coilovers for our S15.
Hey, yo. Hey world, this is Lollipop. Rats for the sweet tooth. The real fiends who want their ghost faces.
When lowering your car, you often run into issues with your steering, like bump steer. Our S15 also had some pre-existing bends in the tie rod, so we're going to replace the inner tie rods and the outer tie rods with some SPL adjustable ones. With the boot off, we can remove the tie rod as an entire unit, as we will be replacing it all.
We got skaters that ox your whole face off. Rob you like Mayoff. Drug kingpins on the diet.
With the old tie rods out, we can install the new ones. So we'll be running this SPD inner tie rod end from a Z33 on our S15. Not only is it beefier than the stock S15 one, but it's also necessary when running the SPL outer tie rods. So if you want to keep your stock outer tie rod ends, there are adjustable inner versions such as this IKEA formula, which comes with a spacer that allows for a few more degrees of steering angle, is much beefier than the stock one, and is double adjustable. Alright, so installation of these is going to be pretty easy because we got everything nice and cleared out of the way. But I want to give a big thanks again to HKS for hooking us up with these awesome coilovers. So let's get the top hat put in. Now we're installing our freshly powder coated front lower control arms. These have some new white line bushings pressed in and some new Moog ball joints. If you guys want to see more about that, check out this video here. Now let's get to installing it.
One step closer.
Yep, one step closer. Now it's time to get the knuckle and connect these two. Now we're reattaching the front spindle. They bolt up to our coilover because it's a McPherson strut design, and our lower control arm, as well as our outer tie rod.
Finally getting back to the SPL tie rod ends. We can finally actually install them with everything put together. So what's the first thing we need to do?
So after installing the inner bit, we're installing the shank now. So we're gonna take the two jam nuts they supply you and crank them together so they're locked together. And then we're gonna take the shank, we're gonna slide it up in the ball joint location, the stock outer tie rod ball joint location, and put the top flanged nut on. So then you're gonna put your wrench on the bottom and torque this top nut to 75 foot-pounds. It's a 19 mil nut. Cool. And we're torqued. All right, now the next step is to unjam these nuts, take them off, and then figure out how many spacers you need to go in between the knuckle and your outer tie rod. You want the whole tie rod and the lower arm to be parallel. The SPL tie rod end comes with these spacers, and they go basically in between the knuckle and the heim joint on the tie rod end. It recommends for most applications you just use the 1/2-inch spacer and neither of the 1/4-inch spacers. Unless you're doing your car, like you're lowering your car a crazy amount, then you might need to add more spacers. But we're gonna check it out like this, set the car on the ground and see if the tie rod and the lower control arm are parallel. If they are, we'll call it good. If they aren't, we'll go back and readjust using the spacers. Rotate the spindle and then try to get the heim joint on. Get the heim joint on, and just so I don't lose these spacers in case we do need them, I'm just gonna put them on and then put the retaining bottom lock nut on. Oh. Now this just needs to get tightened all the way. This is our SPL front tension rod. It's adjustable in length as well as it has offset spacers in order to keep the rod away from the wheel and give you a little bit more steering angle. Once this is bolted up, we can move on to the wheel bearings. So we greased the spindle, we threw a little grease and cleaned up the wheel bearing, and now we're just gonna throw it on. Alright, this is torqued to 175 foot-pounds. The manual says anywhere between 152 and 210. Alright, now with that fully installed, we can move on to installing the brakes. If you want to see a more in-depth video on the big brake kit we installed, look forward to that in a future video. Alright, there we have it. The new SPL tension rods and tie rods are in place. We went with adjustable offset tension rods because they allow a larger wheel to get a little bit more angle, as well as SPL's adjustable tie rods, which replace the weak outer ball joint with a nice heim joint and give you a bit of adjustability to correct for bump steer. And our new bushings and ball joints in our powder coated lower control arms, and la pièce de résistance, the HKS coilovers. A big thanks again to HKS for hooking us up with these, and stay tuned because this car is getting put together real soon and you don't want to miss it. An easy way to make horsepower on an NA car.
Unbox this bad boy and take a closer look.
Ooh. Beautiful car.